Gateway colleagues, hello. This is Matt Jolly, your faculty developer. Today I'm talking a little bit about wait time or think time. Last night I was watching Jeopardy with my 12-year-old son Benjamin, and one of the categories was poet laureates. I thought, okay, I'm ready for this. I studied poetry. And the first question that was asked was this. In what US city was Lawrence Ferlinghetti named the first poet laureate? Before I even had a chance to think, somebody buzzed in right away and they had the right answer. And that's how Jeopardy goes for me a lot of the time. I'm watching and I could have come up with the right answer if I just had a little bit more time. But not only are those contestants incredibly brilliant, but they're also really quick. And so I was thinking about this in relation to the topic that I wanted to talk to all of you about today. I'll begin with a question. Um, how long do you think an instructor should wait between asking a question and requiring a response from students? So during a 1970s study, researchers Robert J. Stahl and J. Doyle Castile found that instructors waited about 1.5 seconds between asking a question and requiring a response from their students. When researchers asked instructors to increase the length of time, they found that around 3 seconds, the number of correct answers provided by students increased dramatically. And so that led researchers at the time to encourage instructors to incorporate into their instruction something they called wait time. In the 1990s, one of the original researchers returned to this issue and coined the phrase think time to replace the phrase wait time. He believed that think time more accurately captured the work that students were doing as they were processing the question and developing their responses. So the researcher, Robert J. Stahl, suggested 8 specific occasions when it's appropriate to provide some think time for students during class. One is, of course, after asking a question. Another is during a student's response. So often students, while they're responding, will pause in order to gather their ideas, and then they'll continue after a period of time. It's also appropriate to wait after a student has responded so that the other students can consider that student's response and connect it to their own knowledge and their own understanding of the topic. It's also appropriate to provide think time after a student has asked the professor a question. After all, we can probably provide much more meaningful, much more thorough responses if we give ourselves 3 seconds to put our ideas together and be as thorough as we can. And also, I thought it interesting that the researcher recommended pausing during lecture. So if you present a new idea, not just for dramatic effect, although certainly it can have that effect, but if you present a new idea that is really profound, waiting 3 seconds to allow students to connect that to what they already know can be very productive time spent. So it turns out that San Francisco was the city that named Lawrence Ferlinghetti their poet laureate. Lawrence Ferlinghetti was the owner of a very famous bookstore called City Lights Bookstore on Haight-Ashbury. And if I'd had time, I could have come up with a very educated guess, but I didn't have time, and so I was shamed by the contestant who probably didn't study poetry in graduate school, and that's okay. So I encourage all of you, when you're in your classes, when you're lecturing, when you're asking students questions, when students are responding to your questions, to think about that silence and to think about how students can use that silence, not only to come up with the correct answer, but also to connect the correct answer to their large body of knowledge and experience.